fly ball to left field, and Kike has done it again.
Posey hits a base hit into center. The Giants score 2 in the 10th to win it 5-4.
It's the Giants and the Dodgers. The rivalry continues. It's time for Dodger Baseball. Live from Dodger Stadium, Sportsnet LA presents the Giants and the Dodgers. Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant Monday evening to you, wherever you may be. We're at Dodger Stadium and delighted to be here. The Dodgers leading the Giants by 5. The magic number is 9. There are 13 games left on the schedule. The Giants and Dodgers have 3 here. The Dodgers then play Colorado and San Diego, and then they'll finish up with the Giants in San Francisco. Going head-to-head, the Giants have won 7 of the 13 against the Dodgers. What is really interesting, the Giants are 7-3 against the Dodgers when Bumgarner does not pitch. And tonight, of course, Bumgarner against Kershaw. They have faced each other 9 times. The Giants have won 5 of the 9. Kershaw 3-4 with an ERA of 2. Bumgarner 4-3 with an ERA of 2. That's over the previous 9. However, this year, Bumgarner is 0-2 against the Dodgers, and Kershaw 2-0 against the Giants. But the most important set of numbers, when the Dodgers starter goes 5 innings or less, they have still managed to win 35 games because of the bullpen. The bullpen. For the Giants, well, the bullpen has lost 20 games, and they have blown 29 saves. A lot of numbers, I know, but important numbers they are. Stay tuned. We got a great ball game and a whole lot more coming up right after this. And a very pleasant Monday evening to you. The stars have arrived. No red carpet, it's green indeed, as Madison Bumgarner walked down to the bullpen and Clayton Kershaw did the same. However, that's a while ago, and the crowd patiently waiting for the principals to go after each other, and that's exactly what you would expect, especially in a Giant-Dodger ball game. The Giants have a slight edge, 13 games. They've won 7 of the 13. But the inspiration factor is alive for both teams, especially for the Giants. Things have changed dramatically for the ball club. Somehow or other, they're trying to come up with a miracle. The Dodgers, meanwhile, will try to grind it out and beating them down since the magic number is 9. Here's the way the Giant lineup shakes up. The names printed on the card by Bruce Bochy. Eduardo Nunez at third base, Angel Pagan in left field, Buster Posey, the catcher, and Hunter Pence in right field. Dorcas Hernandez in center field, Brandon Crawford at short, Brandon Belt at first, Madison Bumgarner bats 8th, and then the second baseman, Kelby Tomlinson, batting 9th. The one reason you think about Joe Panik figuring to be at second base in a big game, but he's had just 1 hit in his last 24 at-bats, so Panik 6 down, and they look to Kelvinson to see what he can do against Kershaw. For Clayton Kershaw, a few numbers. He is 2-0 against the Giants this year, 18-7 lifetime. He has allowed only 7 home runs this year, and in his last 5 starts against San Francisco, his earned run average 1.5. His record in the 5 starts, 4-0. So Bumgarner is back in the dugout, valuable left arm tucked in the windbreaker. And here we go as Eduardo Michel Nunez, the pride of Santo Domingo, checks in. Right-hand hitter takes the first pitch high. 1 ball and no strike. Nunez, 6 feet, but about 155 pounds. Right-hand batter all the way. He stopped switching. At one time, he hit left-handed. Fly ball to left field. Kendrick backtracking and turns to make the catch for the out. So 1 away. Fly ball to left. Take a look at the Dodgers with the leather. You have Gonzalez and Utley, Seager and Turner, Kendrick, Hernandez and Puig, with Grandal handling Kershaw. Angel Pagan coming up, and how many times he has been involved in Giant-Dodger ball games. Over the years, although he's struggling this month, over the years when he played, usually the Giants won. With him, an ERA and above 500 in games won and lost, and without him, under 500. So Angel takes a strike. Veteran out of Puerto Rico, 6'2", 200-pounder, 33 years old, and originally signed by the Mets out of high school. He slaps a flare over first base, dropping foul. Racing over was Gonzalez to try to backhand it, but couldn't do it. So Pagan waiting at the plate. His last home run just a few days ago against San Diego's Clayton Richard, and waiting on deck, Buster Posey. So Pagan waiting. Right-hand batter, Kershaw comes with a fastball, a hopper to short. Shard scooped up by Seager, throws and gets him on the run. 2 down in the first inning, and Buster Posey coming up.
Catcher number 28, Buster Posey.
Interesting, the Dodgers leading the division. Going back all the way to 1889, the Dodgers have been in first place in their division 36 times at the end of September, and they have finished up in first place 28 of the 36. Of course, the biggest jolt for the Dodgers was 1951, when the Giants got off the floor and beat them. Posey takes off speed and away. 1 ball and no strikes. Posey 9 for his last 23. Last 2 weeks hitting better than 300. Right-hand hitting catcher takes low. 2 balls and no strikes to Buster Posey. Posey's such a natural leader. It's still hard to believe. He was an All-American shortstop, and yet his coach in college made him a catcher. And he promptly lines one at Kendrick, who gloves it, and that's that. The ball hit right on the button and right at the left fielder. So 1-2-3 for Clayton Kershaw at the end of half an inning. Giants nothing, and coming up, Madison Bumgarner. Give us a little bit of a surprise for us. The humidity has gone up a bit. The temperature 77 degrees. Let's take a look now at the Dodger lineup, spearheaded by Howie Kendrick, leading off in left field. He'll be followed by Kike Hernandez in center. Then it'll be Corey Seager at short. Justin Turner plays third. Adrian Gonzalez at first. Yasiel Puig is in right field. Yasmani Grandal, the catcher. Chase Utley at second base, and Clayton Kershaw on the mound. That means the Dodgers have 4 left-handers and a switch hitter going up against Garner. So Madison Bumgarner with a record of 14-9, 0-2 against the Dodgers this year, 13-9 in his career against them. One thing that's been a jolt in comparison, and admittedly, Bumgarner has worked a lot more than Kershaw. Kershaw has allowed 7 home runs this year. Madison Bumgarner, 23. Howie Kendrick leads off, takes a strike on the outside corner, and the count 0-1. Howie hitting .269. That's about his average, hitting .260 against left-handers, .270s hitting right-handers. Strike one pitch. Howie tries to time a breaking ball and fouls it back. And the count, no balls and 2 strikes. Howie Kendrick has learned to become a pretty good left fielder. The only thing really for Howie, his problem, he has a second baseman's arm, so the shortstop or third baseman, whoever, will have to go out to relay any throws that hang towards home plate. Howie has done such a great job making the transition, takes off the plate, and the count 1-2. So Madison Bumgarner, the big man out of North Carolina, 6'5", 235 pounds. Bumgarner, 27 years old. His 1-2 pitch on the way. Little slider inside, fouled off. Bumgarner over to pick it up, and the count 1-2. I guess one thing you will always remember about Madison Bumgarner, the year that he had pitching the Giants not only to the pennant but to the World Series in 2014. His final pitch in the World Series to get Salvador Perez was the 4,074 pitch of the year for him. So he is a workhorse. 1-2 pitch, off speed, a hopper to the right side. Tomlinson stays with it and throws him out. 2 down. Kike Hernandez coming up on a 4-3 play. Kike Hernandez had a big 2-run home run against Madison Bumgarner. He's done it twice. And actually, he comes into the game hitting .579 against Bumgarner. So they know each other very well. And it will be Bumgarner's pride, certainly, against the overall hustle of Kike, who takes a big, slow breaking ball for a strike. 0-1. Kike backs out, says something to the plate umpire, Jim Reynolds. .579 against one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. Strike one, pitch on the way. Looks like a cutter that time down, or slider, and an 0-2 count to Kike. Hernandez, of course, is in and out of the lineup all the time, so it's a little tough to suddenly get your number called and you're going up against Bumgarner. Though we'll see how Kike goes with Corey Seager on deck. Strike two, pitch on the way. Another slider, swung on and missed, and down goes Hernandez. So Kendrick grounded out. Kike strikes out. We'll take a look at the Giants. Belt and Tomlinson on the right side. Crawford and Nunez on the left. Pagan, Hernandez, and Pence in the outfield. Posey behind the plate, handling Madison. So here's Corey Seager, having a tremendous rookie year, hitting .313, 25 home runs, 69 RBIs, and 2 for 5 in the past against Bumgarner. The left-hander's fastball is swung on and fouled away. That's the first fastball that Bumgarner has unleashed tonight. It has really been a puzzle. Someone like Bruce Bochy could go into great detail, I'm sure, how the best team in the major leagues became the worst team. Breaking ball on the outside corner and the count 0-2. How in the world could the best team in the major leagues reach the All-Star game and go dead south after the All-Star break? I'm sure even the Giant players trouble figuring that out. Big roundhouse sloppy curveball down at the feet. 1-2 the count to Corey Seager. Nunez, Crawford, Belt, Posey, Pence, Pagan, Samardzija, they're accustomed to a lot better times. Now they're fighting not so much to win the division. They're fighting to survive the wild card. Next pitch is fouled away. You look at the wild card right now, the Mets would be in first place. The Giants would be right behind them for the second wild card, but St. Louis is just one game behind them. You can just about discount Miami and Pittsburgh, but then again, you never can tell with only such a short race left, 13 games. The 1-2 pitch on the way, down and away, 2-2 the count. So Seager got a fastball, and then a lot of the off-speed pitches. Giants on the railing, looking out, watching their leader, Madison, ready. And the big left-hander's 2-2 pitch on the way. Slow breaking ball, swung on and missed. So Messrs. Kendrick, Hernandez, and Seager go down in order, and at the end of an inning, no score. Tonight is the 10th career time that Kershaw and Bumgarner have gone head-to-head. Bumgarner has won 4 and Kershaw 3. Kershaw with a better ERA, a better whip, and of course he has held the opposition, meaning the Giants, to a 198 batting average. So Clayton retired the side in the first inning. Posey hit a ball hard but lined out to left, and Bumgarner struck out 2. So Pence, Hernandez, and Crawford in that order, and the first pitch fouled away by Hunter, and the count 0-1. The Giants suffered a blow, but that was a long time ago. Hunter Pence missed 48 games with a bad hamstring, but he came off the DL July 30th, so he's had enough time to catch up. The strike 1 pitch, a little low and away. 1 ball and 1 strike. For Clayton Kershaw, what a thrill it is for the Dodgers to have him back. Just as Bumgarner leads the Giants from the mound, Clayton does the same thing. And the 1-1 fastball is swung on and missed as Kershaw gets it up to 93. So Hunter Pence, an exciting player, kind of a do-or-die guy. Coming off an 0-for-4 game yesterday, he had an 11-game hitting streak. The 1-2 pitch just off the corner, a fastball that just missed. And the count, 2 balls and 2 strikes. Yasmani Grandal had to backhand it, tried to pull it, but Jim Reynolds would not go for it. So the 2-2 pitch on the way. Clayton deals, another fastball fouled away, and Pence is still there. Hence, overall, and one of the reasons he is so popular, he is so effective, with runners in scoring position, he's hitting .327. Though, boy, they missed him for those 48, and yet that's when they played their best without him. 2-2 pitch on the way. Kershaw's fastball popped up. Clayton watching Adrian Gonzalez in foul ground, making the catch in fair ground. And we have 1 away here in the second inning. So Hunter Pence fouls it up, and Gorkis Hernandez coming up. First name Gorkys. Gorkis Hernandez. Playing in center field, Denard Span sitting this one out. Hernandez, right-hand batter. Clayton ready and delivers. Fastball a little high. Ball 1. Gorkis is from Venezuela. An even 6, 190. 29 years old. Just had a birthday a few days ago. 1-0 pitch fouled at the plate. And the count 1-1. We had mentioned earlier all the talk, comparison, etc. You really can zero in on the 2 bullpens. That's where the story this year has truly been written. The 1-1 pitch on the way, swung on, a little flare, down the right field line, foul, and out of play. The Dodgers, believe it or not, have won 35 games where the starting pitcher has gone 5 innings or less, which is indeed a great tribute to the bullpen. The Giants, however, the bullpen has lost 20. They've blown 28 saves, 7 in the last 11 opportunities. And so really, difference in the 2 bullpens gives you the difference in the race. High drive into right center. Kike on his horse, still on the grass, makes the catch 2 feet from the warning track in right center field. So Gorkys Hernandez, a fly ball to right center, 2 down. And the batter will be Brandon Crawford. Crawford, another of the fine ball players with the Giants, who helps to make them go. Brandon hitting .266, but he would almost phone it in against Clayton Kershaw, hitting less than 100. He has just 2 hits in his career against Kershaw. Clayton ready, fastball promptly banged into left field for a base hit. So Brandon Crawford, too good a hitter to just stay in a prolonged slump against any pitcher. So he singles to left, and with 2 down, Brandon Belt coming up. So Crawford with the base hit. Brandon Belt coming into this game as a red hot hitter. In fact, for Brandon, in his last 10 games, hitting .333, 2 doubles, a home run, and 9 RBIs. Kershaw ready, looks over at Crawford, comes to the hitter, inside under the hands. Pretty good fastball at 94, and we have a 1-ball, no strike count. Brandon Belt, big boy out of Texas. Nacogdoches exactly. Now lives in Lufkin, Texas. 6'5", big strike zone. The 1-0 pitch on the way inside. The old timer said he undressed him. 2 balls and no strikes. Belt is 6'5", 220. Signed by the Giants out of the University of Texas. Left-handed all the way. The 2-0 pitch on the way. Kershaw again looks over at first. Now to the plate. Fastball in, swung on and missed. And the count 2-1. So when you come inside to a home run hitter like Brandon Belt, you got to have a little something on that fastball. And that thing was jumping at 94. 2-1 the count. Belt waits. The next pitch, check swing, foul. Tried to hold up, fouled it off. Belt with 15 home runs, 75 runs batted in. Giants not only trying to catch the Dodgers, but stay alive in the wild card race. Bad news for the Mets. They lost. The Braves beat them 7-3, and the Cardinals are winning against the Rockies. 2-2 instead, throw to first, and Crawford back on the bag. Crawford, when he runs, is very, very successful. You don't think of him as a base stealer, but he has stolen 6 and has not been caught. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Kershaw set at the belt. Now goes to that full extension. Sets again. And his 2-2 pitch, fastball, swung on and missed. So he just overpowered Brandon Belt with the hard stuff. No run, 1 hit and a man left. And at the end of an inning and a half, no score. In the ball game, Madison Bumgarner picked up a couple of strikeouts in the first inning. Now he'll go up against Turner, Gonzalez, and Puig. Giants went quietly in the first 2 innings, and that's part of the puzzle for San Francisco. Since the All-Star break, the Giants are next to last in the major league in runs scored. Turner hitting .268, really struggling against left-handers and doing exceptionally well, right around .300 against right-handers. First pitch missing low, 1 ball and no strikes. Bumgarner throwing a lot of off-speed pitches. In fact, the 3 outs were all on breaking balls. The 1-0 pitch swung on, popped up, foul off to the right, and it looks like and will wind up in the crowd and then bouncing back out onto the field. The 3 outs in the first inning when he struck out Hernandez and Seager. The first ground ball by Kendrick was off a breaking ball at 75 miles an hour. When Hernandez struck out, he struck out on a 77-mile breaking ball. And when Seager went down, he went down on a 76-mile-an-hour breaking ball. So let's see what he does with Turner. 1-1 breaking ball, hit in the air to right field. Hunter Pence is right there and makes the catch. So 1 away in the second inning. Adrian Gonzalez coming up.
23, Adrian Gonzalez.
That last pitch to Justin Turner, by the way, was 75 miles an hour. So Bumgarner is big, throws hard, not as hard as Kershaw, and for that matter, they're really 2 different pitchers. However, you have to remember, the way Bumgarner pitches, he averages a little more than 10 strikeouts every 9 innings. Gonzalez takes way inside, ball 1, 1-0. Adrian trying to get something started. 1 out. Bumgarner taking his time. Now the left-hander ready in the 1-0 pitch. Fastball hitting the air to right center and deep. That goes Hernandez on the track and makes the catch for the out. That rare fastball that you might see with a left-hand hitter, and Adrian was looking and almost hit it out.
Right field, number 66, Yasiel Puig.
So a fastball up above the belt. Adrian got a lot of it, but not quite enough. And with 2 outs, here comes Yasiel Puig. Remember when Yasiel Puig hit a home run against Bumgarner, and as he rounded third, Bumgarner came off the mound and hollered at him, etc. A scene that most of us will not forget, and I'm sure it has stayed in the mind of Madison and Yasiel. Well, here they are hooking up. Bumgarner ready with 2 out, bases empty. Fastball popped in the air, foul, and out of play. No balls and 1 strike to count to Yasiel Puig. For the Dodgers, needing an extra right-handed bat, and they have it. Puig hitting .255, 10 doubles, couple of triples, 10 home runs. 0-1 the count. The pitch to Puig, runs inside. Fastball with a little cut to it. 1 ball and 1 strike. Puig in his last 23 games hitting .268, but again he falls into the category of a sometimes player. Here's the 1-1 pitch on the way. Fastball low and inside. 2-1. So where Bumgarner was throwing a lot of off-speed pitches, now he's throwing hard to Puig, and he's behind a little. 2 balls and 1 strike. Nice crowd on hand. Beautiful evening. Game 1 of the 3. 2-1 pitch. Off speed, line to center. Going back, Hernandez over his head and against the wall. Into second base goes Puig and holds on with a double. So Yasiel Puig knocks one to the center field wall. It was up above the belt, and Yasiel was right on top of it. So a 2-out double by Puig. Hernandez went back, but it was over his head, short hopped the wall, and Yasiel checks in at second base. So a 2-out double brings up Grandal. If you've been reading the papers and or following the Dodgers, you know that Grandal has had a troublesome right elbow. Nevertheless, he's in there. He's only 1 for 11 against Bumgarner. The left-hander ready and delivers. Fastball inside, ball 1. Dave Roberts said before the game about Grandal, well, he could have played yesterday, but we wanted to give him another day. He feels fine at the plate, and throwing has never been an issue. All right. 1 ball and no strikes. Puig at second, 2 down, no score. And the next one swung on and missed, and the count 1-1. Because anytime Grandal bats right-handed, he gives up some power. He has a total of 25 home runs, 3 batting right-handed. Bumgarner, however, as we mentioned, has given up 23 home runs. Puig at second with 2 out, and the next a high fastball waved at and missed. Grandal, I'm sure, unhappy with himself over that kind of a wave-like swing. So Bumgarner mixing them up now. The last few batters seeing his fastball stuff. We'll see what he does now. 1-2, and it's inside and hits him. The Grandal nicked by the pitch. Bumgarner, annoyed, wandering around, mad at himself, tried to come in, got it too far in, and sure enough, it hit Grandal's elbow. Two on, 2 out, and Chase Utley coming up. Utley has been playing very well, pleasing his manager, not putting up big numbers, but nevertheless playing very well in every game. But he is struggling against left-handers, batting just 173. You have Clayton Kershaw on deck. 2 on, 2 out, second inning, no score. Contrary to the Giants, Dodgers have been playing very well since the All-Star break. And the first pitch down and away, 1 ball and no strike. The best club since the break would be the Cubs, then Washington, and then the Dodgers, 33-24. Meanwhile, Jock Peterson, Corey Seager, Clay Thompson having a little fun. Here's the 1-0 pitch on the way, slow and missing inside. 2-0 the count. Naturally, the instinct is to get away, but if you were going to take one for the club, that would have been the pitch. All right, 2-0 the count to Chase Utley. And, of course, with his record of being hit by pitches, that would have been a big opportunity, but he has the pitcher following. All right, Utley waits, 2-0 pitch, swung on, foul back, and the count 2-1. Two fly balls, and then Puig got a fastball and doubled to center. Grandal hit by a pitch, and here's Utley trying to do some damage. Bumgarner, knowing Kershaw is on deck, trying to get the last out against the number 8 hitter in the lineup. One reason Utley is in there, the last 7 games that he has played, he's hit almost .350. So they figure he's got a hot hand, and here he is. 2-1 pitch coming up. Bumgarner's fastball is low, and he's behind now 3-1. Bumgarner is muttering, and so is Bruce Bochy. And I think the old baseball expression, they think Jim Reynolds is pinching him, cutting down on the strike zone. All right, 3-1 the count to Chase Utley. Puig at second, Grandal at first. Bumgarner delivers, swung on and missed, 3-2. So the Dodgers now get the slight offensive edge. The runners will be going with 2 out. looking at the outfield. Pence gives straightaway right field away. Hernandez shading left center, and the runner's ready to go. 3-2 pitch. There they go. Fastball is strike 3 call, and Utley was ready to go to first base. As usual, Utley doesn't say anything, but by his actions, you know he thought that was going to be ball 4, and instead, strike 3, and at the end of 2, no score. Batting 8th. If you wonder why, well, Kershaw will tell you. May 21st last year in San Francisco, a home run by Bumgarner. And then April this year in San Francisco, another home run. Now, Madison, a good hitter, right-hand batter, and he will test Kershaw yet again. Bumgarner, then Tomlinson, and then Nunez. Kershaw had made 24 pitches, Bumgarner 33. Fastball in for a strike, and the count 0-1. Bumgarner hitting 8th, has a .222 lifetime batting average against Kershaw. Another fastball in there. But Kershaw jumps right out in front, 0-2. Madison waits. Here comes Kershaw. 0-2. Low with a bit of a sinker. 1-2. No score. Top of the third. 1-2 pitch on the way. Off speed. Pull foul. He slowed down on Bumgarner, and he's ready. Bumgarner is, as a pitcher, quite a home run hitter. He's hit 14 of them in his career. So Kershaw knows he has to handle with care. No score in the third. The 1-2 pitch on the way. Clayton deals fastball in there. That'll do it. So Bumgarner strikes out. Second strikeout for Kershaw. Bumgarner has 3. You know, friends, limited tickets to the Dodger potential home games for the National League Wild Card, the National League Division Series, and National League Championship Series. They're all on sale right now. Visit Dodgers.com/postseason and order yours today. 1 out. Kelby Tomlinson checking in, playing for Joe Panik. Fastball lifted foul off first and well out of play. Kelby Tomlinson was recalled from Sacramento September 1. Since being recalled, 5 hits, 15 at-bats. He had a bad June into July. He had a left thumb sprain and missed 29 games. Change up in there for a strike. 0-2. So Kelby Tomlinson waiting at the plate. 0-2 the count. Kershaw looks, then wants to talk to Yasmani Grandal, and timeout for the moment. 0-2 to Tomlinson, trying to refresh each other's memory perhaps, since Kelby was down in the minor league. All right, Clayton ready to go to work again. And the strike 2 pitch on the way. And that swung on and fouled away. Kelby up and down with the Giants. Right now he's up and Panic is down. Oh, 0-2. Here comes Kershaw, and it's a little flare behind the plate, caught by Grandal. So Tomlinson fouls out. 2 down in the third, and Nunez coming up.
Number 10, Eduardo Nunez.
Eduardo Nunez hit the ball pretty hard in the first inning, lined out to Howie Kendrick. Nunez settling in, hitting .289, 15 home runs. He came to the Giants in July from the Twins, and he takes a strike. Back in 2010, his first major league hit drove in his first major league run to give the Yankees the lead in another victory. And about a week later, he had his first major league home run. Little number by the mound, barehanded pickup to throw the first, not in time. Great effort by Chase Utley, but he couldn't catch the speedy Nunez, who had a home run inside the park early in May this year. He just took off. Kershaw tried to backhand it, couldn't do it. Utley tried to make the play, and Nunez beat him. Interesting, too, in watching Nunez run, the home run that he hit inside the park was against Matt Moore, who's now a teammate of his with the Giants. So Nunez, a 2-out squib single. And that'll bring up Angel Pagan. They're going to give Nunez a little bit of a time, that head-first dive. What usually happens, among other things, you go head first, your belt buckle suddenly is like a shovel. So there he goes head first. The buckle usually brings up a lot of dirt right into your pants. And you can see some of the dirt is sitting right there between the leather and the metal on the belt buckle. Oh yes, anyone who's ever tried to go head first will suffer that indignity. So with 2 down, Nunez at first, quick throw, and he just did get back. Nunez, with the American League club, he had 27 stolen bases. With the Giants, he has 10. Kershaw watching him very carefully, and Angel Pagan waiting at the plate. Fastball in for a high strike in the strike zone. 0-1 to Angel. Pagan signed by the Mets, but came up and played a lot with the Cubs before eventually getting back to the Mets. Strike 1 pitch on the way. Kershaw at the ball. There goes Nunez. Pitch missed at the plate. Bad throw. It's going to go into center field. Picked up by Kike, and Nunez all the way to third, having scraped about 4 or 5 pounds of dirt on his trip. Well, I was reading an article recently, and mothers and fathers might be interested. They suggest that you let your children get dirty. That apparently that is a healthy thing. Well, Nunez could write a book just on this one inning. He's dirty. Though he has a stolen base, and he goes to third on the overthrow by Grandal. And although we know Grandal says that right elbow is okay, it was not a Grandal throw. So with 2 out, runner at third, Pagan up there 0-2. We're waiting until Nunez cleans himself up. Okay, now we're about ready. Pagan tapped to short in the first inning. So Nunez down the line from third, 2 out, third inning, no score. Kershaw at the belt, ready and deals, swung on and foul back. So the count remains 0-2 to Anthony Pagan, better known as Angel. Waiting on deck, Buster Posey doing a little cheerleading, hollering encouragement to Pagan. No balls and 2 strikes. Kershaw trying to put him away with a runner at third. Clayton ready, and his strike 2 pitch down and dirty to the backstop. Here comes Nunez and scores. Do you know what? I was just in the moon of looking up how many wild pitches Kershaw had made. Darn, I couldn't have gotten that out a hair earlier. Anyway, the run is in. In the dirt, bouncing right over the right shoulder of Grandal. And on the wild pitch, in comes Nunez. That, by the way, is the 6th wild pitch made by Kershaw this year. So all that dirt scraping, going from first, picking up a pound, going to second, picking up a pound, and going to third, picking up another. And all the while, Nunez picks up a run. Ground ball backhanded by Seager, throws him out, and that's the inning. So the infield single, a stolen base, a throwing error, and the wild pitch. And at the end of 2.5 innings, 1-0, San Francisco. Had home runs inside the park in his career. It looks like he had a home run under the park as he takes his position. The red badge of courage, the muddy stain, and we go to the bottom of the third. 1-0 Giants. Bumgarner's first pitch, high for a strike, up around the letters. Kershaw, like Bumgarner, pretty good hitting pitcher, not that he has 14 home runs. 0-1 the count. Bumgarner ready here in the bottom of the third, slings one down and away, fastball off the plate, and the count 1-1 strike. So Bumgarner struck out against Kershaw. We'll see if he tries to return the favor. 1-1 pitch on the way, fastball hit late and foul, and the count 1-2. Clayton Kershaw's 6th wild pitch of the year brings in a run, and the Giants lead 1-0. Edward Nunez, the infield single, stolen base, taking third on the overthrow, and home on the pitch. Off speed, grounded to third. Nunez is up with it and takes care of Kershaw. 1 out in the 3rd inning. Well, the Chicago Cubs, who are playing dazzling ball, they were 41-19 since the break. Well, the Cubs struck late, turned one around on the troubled Cincinnati bullpen. Cubs won it 5-2 at Wrigley. It was win number 95 for the National League Central Division champion. And you know what Joe Maddon said just recently? He really thinks the Cubs will be a lot better next year. 0-1 the count to Howie Kendrick. Bumgarner ready to come back. 0-1, works it away. 1-1. Bumgarner retired 5 in a row. Then Puig doubled at the base of the center field wall, and he hit Grandal. Then he struck out Utley on a borderline pitch where Utley thought surely it was ball 4. Here's the 1-1 pitch. Breaking ball, but it stayed off the plate. 2-1 the count. Meanwhile, Justin Turner, who's had some problems with the right hand, might have a blister or something on the left hand. They worked on him briefly. Of course, at this stage of the race, they're all hurting in some fashion, big and small, somewhere from head to toe. Grounded foul. Fastball that jammed him, so he hit it inside out. Still 2-2. Bumgarner and Kershaw in game 1. Rich Hill and Johnny Cueto in game 2. And then Kenta Maeda and Matt Moore. Fastball lifted to right field, but coming over his pens. Makes the catch for the out. 2 down in the 3rd inning.
Number 14.
Well, here comes Kike Hernandez, and we were telling you when he walked up to the plate for his first at-bat, he was hitting .579 against Bumgarner. Well, since he hit the 2 home runs against Bumgarner, he's hitting .140 against left-handers. A nice slow breaking ball for a strike. 0-1. Again, if you don't play, it's awfully hard to play. Strike 1 pitch on the way. Bumgarner, another breaking ball. Little slider down. 0-2. He struck Hernandez out with that pitch in the 1st inning. On deck, Corey Seager. No balls and 2 strikes to Kike. Bumgarner from the 3rd base side of the rubber. Off speed, breaking ball, strikes him out again. So down goes Kike and the Dodgers. Well, now there's a bonus, baby. 2 clubs fighting over him naturally. Mom with a Giant cap, Dad with a Dodger cap. You both won. It's 1-0 Giants. on Sportsnet LA is brought to you by the Dodge Challenger. Test drive one at your local Dodge dealer today. And by Jack in the Box. Taste the all-new Jack's Brewhouse Bacon Burger today at Jack in the Box for a limited time only at participating restaurants. A look at the pass. That's Willie Mays on the left, a great center fielder. A young fella from San Francisco named Gino Cimoli came to the Dodgers, and they really thought that he might be another Joe DiMaggio, or at least close, but that was put too much weight on his shoulders, and Gino never quite made it. Fourth inning, 1-0 in favor of the Giants, and ball one to Buster Posey. Posey hit the ball hard and lined out to left field in the first inning, hitting a solid .291. Fastball low, though Posey has the count his way, 2 balls and no strikes. One thing that has happened, you can partly blame Posey and you can also blame the Giant pitchers. Opponents have been successful. 15 of the last 17 stolen base attempts. Check swing. That's going to cost him a strike. 2-1. Really, though, rarely do base runners steal on the catcher. 2-1 the count to Buster. Two and two. You joined us a little late with 2 out. Nunez rolled one just by the mound. Kershaw tried to backhand it, couldn't do it. Utley charged through to first, not in time. Then Nunez stole second. On the throw to center field, he took third and came home on a wild pitch. That was a very, very important stolen base. That's going foul. The Nunez stolen base, the first stolen base against Kershaw this year. One to nothing, favor of the Giants. We're in the fourth. 2-2. And sound like a crack bat ground ball up the middle. An effort by Utley to no avail. So Posey leads off with an infield single, and that will be bringing up Hunter Pence.
Hunter Pence.
I think we could hear that bat crack up here. It certainly sounded like a celery stalk. Utley never saw a ground ball he couldn't catch. Couldn't do it that time. So that'll bring up Hunter Pence. Posey hustling, has himself a base hit. Since he was 2 for 11 with runners in scoring position, now he tries to get in that position, and here's Pence. Strike. 0-1. Hunter hitting .293. Would appear to be right back on form, having missed 48 games. 0-1. That was half a wave, but apparently he held up. Grandal had that wild pitch get over his right shoulder. So he's been working on, not that Kershaw's wild by any means. One ball and one strike. Fastball fouled away off to the right. Giants, among other things, offensively, they have received the 3rd highest number of walks in the league, and they do not strike out. They are definitely a contact hitting ball club. In the dirt, nice block by Grandal. Another thing the Giants do, they're the third highest number of runners scoring from first on a double, second highest with the number of triples, and at home they have 33 triples. 2-2. Fastball grounded. Foul ball, foul ball. They're going to have to crank up and try it again. It's always a good idea on that kind of a play. Forget the runner. Just look at the umpire. And right there, Fielding Culver's raised his hand, foul ball immediately. Watch. Watch him now. There you go. No play. But everybody is instead watching Posey. All right, they'll try it again. 2 balls, 2 strikes. I love that name, don't you? Fielding Culver. 2-2 to Hunter Pence. Nobody out, 4th inning. 1-0 Giants. Very high. By the way, Fielding Culver worked a memorable game. He was one of the umpires when Cal Ripken Jr. recorded his 3,000th hit. He's from South Carolina. 3-2 to Hunter Pence. And a hopper speared by Seager, played back to Gonzalez. Double play. And punt. That ball was really drilled. Nice play by Seager. So a hopper almost got by, but Corey was there. And Pence doubled up. 2 out in the 4th. And the batter now, Gorkas Hernandez, who flied to center in the 2nd inning. Just called up, hitting .323. And a strike, 0-1. A couple of things have plagued the Giants offensively. Used to always think about home runs up there in San Francisco. The Bombers by the Bay and all the big boppers, etc., etc. They're 13th lowest in home runs in the National League. 121. Crawford waiting on deck. Kershaw trying to get out of the inning. 2-1. Trifle high. Ball 3. Hunter Pence hits the ball hard, bangs into a double play. 2 out and a 3-1 count on Gorkas Hernandez. Little fastball strike. 3-2. Clayton Kershaw in his last game against the Yankees, he made 64 pitches. The game before, 66. So right now he has now made, I think that'll come up 59. Yep. So it's 1-0 favor of the Giants on an infield single, a stolen base, a throwing error, and a wild pitch. Giants now with a single. Pence hitting into a hard ground ball double play. Hernandez walks, and here is Crawford, who singled to left field in the 2nd inning. Just off the corner. 1 ball, no strikes. Gorkas Hernandez, we're not sure about his speed. We haven't seen him play much. The numbers say he's 0 for 1, but that really doesn't indicate how fast he runs. 1-0 to Crawford. That's in there for a strike to balance things up. 1 ball and 1 strike. Kershaw now 61 pitches. So he has been rebuilding his stamina and had that game where they had 2 rain delays and he still was able to go out and pitch. 1 ball and 1 strike. Little nub foul. 1-2. Yasmani Grandal, certainly an important part of the Dodger attack as well as the defense. His throwing error in the 3rd inning allowed Nunez to get to 3rd and score on a wild pitch. And that's the game, the run. 1-2. Looked like Hernandez was leaning a little bit, and Kershaw read that and decided to go 0. Of course, the idea with 2 down, if you run him, if he's thrown out, well, you're not bad because the next inning you have Crawford and Belt back to back. So we'll see if they roll the dice. 1-2. Kershaw certainly watching him. And the pitch up and in. Crawford comes up empty. So in the inning, no runs, 1 hit and a walk, a man left. And at the end of 3.5 innings, Giants 1, Dodgers nothing. Okay. Bottom of the 4th inning, 1-0 favor of the Giants. Corey Seager, Justin Turner, and Adrian Gonzalez. Seager struck out in the 1st inning, batting .313. Corey has slowed down against left-handers. Against right-hand pitching, hitting .342 and 20 home runs. .246 with 5 home runs against left-handers. That's fouled away, 0-2. Justin Turner and then Adrian Gonzalez. 1-0 Giants. Bottom of the 4th inning, game 1 of the 3. Giants 5 back of the Dodgers. Realistically, not thinking so much about winning the division. They're trying to get the wild card. Fastball up takes care of Seager. So Bumgarner, who averages 10 strikeouts every 9, has 5 already. And the batter is Justin Turner. Of course, the Giants are accustomed to doing something well on the even-numbered years. Remember, they won in 10, they won in 12, and they won in 14. And, of course, one of the top managers in all of baseball, Bruce Bochy, at the helm. He's been through it all. Yep, one of 10 managers to win 3 or more World Series titles. Fastball very effective, a lot of movement. 0-1. Turner flied out in the second inning, 0-1. Bumgarner trying to win not only his 15th. If he wins tonight, it would be his 100th career victories. So 99 and counting. No balls, 2 strikes. Fouled away. And looking at Giant pitching, among other things, they do not walk hitters, and the starting pitcher wins games. One reason, as you look at Matt Moore, one reason is the starting pitchers win because the bullpen can't hold a win, and thereby is the major San Francisco story. Off speed, little breaking ball. 1-2. They check at first, no swing. Giants have gotten a lot of quality starts from their starting pitchers, and the starters win. The starting pitching is not the Giant problem. One and 2 the count. Bumgarner almost like a statue, and Turner decided to back out. A slider down in the dirt. 2-2 the count. That's the pitch that has really hammered Kike Hernandez. He has struck out twice, and that good slider down and in. Waiting on deck, Adrian Gonzalez, who got a fastball and flied out to deep right center field. It was a lot of signals, wasn't it? Still 2-2. See if he starts all over. Nope. And it's a fastball. Tomlinson on his knees. 2 down. You know, the first time you could see that Posey was going through the whole alphabet, and then the second time, the old story, put one finger down, and that usually means fastball. 2 down here in the 4th inning. Adrian Gonzalez 0-1. Long fly ball out to right center. And a strike. Matching up the teams, the Giants have made 68 errors. Dodgers have made 69. And that's a drive hooking down the line. Foul. So Adrian comes back to try it again. No balls and 2 strikes. Hitting behind Gonzalez, Yasiel Puig, who doubled back in the 2nd inning for the Dodgers' only hit. 0-2. Fastball on the hands, fly ball to Pence, and that'll be that. So the Dodgers go quietly. That's 7 in a row retired by Tampa. And at the end of 4, 1-0 Giants. SFN AT LA is brought to you by Southern California Toyota dealers. Toyota's clearance countdown is on. Get the biggest savings of the year on the 2016 Prius family. And by Children's Hospital Los Angeles. We treat kids better. Fifth inning, 1-0. Two top managers having a lot of fun. Tommy Lasorda, who finally hung it up, and Bruce Bochy, who is very much still going. Tommy, arms raised high in joy, which is the way it was when he was at the helm. And Bochy, of course, very serious going about his business. Meanwhile, Brandon Belt takes one a little high, ball one. Brandon struck out in the second inning. Belt has had a terrible time against Clayton Kershaw. He's had 47 at-bats, 3 hits, so his batting average against Clayton is less than .065, maybe a half a buck. High foul, I mean high. Seager coming over. Grandal makes the catch. Boy, was that thing hit up there. One away. A reminder, Saturday, La Gran Fiesta Viva Los Dodgers. There'll be music, food, autographs, and fun for the entire family starting at 2 p.m. And it'll be brought to you by Coca-Cola, Spectrum, and State Farm. For tickets, go to Dodgers.com/Viva. One away. Now here's Madison Bumgarner batting 8th in the lineup. Struck out in the 3rd inning. Ball one. 1-0. Bumgarner, coming into the game, had 4 hits and 18 at-bats against Kershaw, including the 2 home runs. So his average was .222, and then he struck out. And boy, there's another one up there. Gonzalez looking. Here comes Grandal, and it lands between them. That ball fooled, and it will happen all the time. You can go to the railing, you think it's going to land in the box seats, and suddenly air, whatever, just pushes the ball out, and you're surprised. And well, watch Grandal and Gonzalez. Grandal's going to lean in, and it's behind him. We've seen that happen so many times. You think you're there, and you are not. All right, we'll see just how important that is to Bumgarner. 1-2. 1 run, 3 hits for the Giants. No runs, 1 hit for the Dodgers. Fastball foul back, out of play. Bumgarner has made 63 pitches. No, that'll be Kershaw. 60. Well, coming up 70 now. Yeah. So Kershaw 12 times this year has pitched at least 100 pitches. Slow, a change up, and Bumgarner way out in front of it.
Number 37, Kelby Tomlinson.
So Kelby Tomlinson coming up. 4 strikeouts for Kershaw. That's a tribute to Bumgarner, because one of the oldest expressions in the game, you never change up on a pitcher unless he's a really good hitter. And the changeup got him. Fastball meanwhile to Tomlinson. 1 ball and no strikes. That's a strike. 1-1. Kershaw 73 pitches. One and two. Hard to really tell by body motion, I guess, unless you're an expert. But it certainly looks like Kershaw works so much harder than Bumgarner. I mean, every ounce of energy on every pitch. Fastball drilled him. 5 strikeouts for Clayton Kershaw. Side goes down in order, and at the end of 4.5 innings, it's still 1-0 San Francisco. There has to be bad feeling when Yasiel Puig flipped his bat the way he did. And of course that really ticked off Bumgarner, who kept hollering at Puig. So the next time Puig hit, it was down at his shoelaces, and that got Puig upset. And Bumgarner kept hollering, "Let's go, let's go." Fat chance of that ever happening. So now here they go against each other. Puig doubled in the 2nd inning. Off speed pitch. 0-1. We mentioned earlier that Bumgarner is trying to win his 100th game as a left-hand pitcher for the Giants. They've only been 7 Giant left-handers who have won 100. The number 1 man, of course, with the great screwball, Carl Hubble. That's a nice letter high strike. Puig in a hole 0-2. Johnny Antonelli 108. Mike McCormick 107. Art Neff 107. Reuter and Marquardt 105. And in there, and Puig can't believe it.
Number 9, Yasmani Grandal.
I don't think he's in danger of arguing and being thrown out. Got a little bit of the strike zone, so it was a good call by Jim Reynolds. Always interesting when you see a player strike out and he will turn and say to the umpire, "Did I swing at a strike?" And then, of course, maybe the next at bat, he'll challenge that same umpire on the next pitch. So it goes. It's still 1-0 Giants. 1 out, bottom of the 5th. Long way to go. 1-1. You get the idea that I feel sitting here watching that Kershaw uses every ounce of strength and energy, and Bumgarner kind of flips the ball up to the plate. Wow. Bottom dropped out of that thing. 1-2. Madison is 6'5", about 235 pounds. He's the #1 pitcher in the National League, getting called third strikes. Fastball foul back. Bumgarner has 6 strikeouts so far and a hit batter. He hit Grandal. 1-2. Fouled away. Kershaw has now made 75 pitches and Bumgarner 66. For Clayton, humid, but 77 degrees, not bad at all. 1-2. And a half swing on a pitch that badly fooled him, and out he goes. 7 strikeouts for Bumgarner, and he has struck out 4 of the last 6 batters. Chase Utley, he struck out in the 2nd inning, called out on a pitch he thought surely was ball 4. Two out, bottom of the 5th, 1-0 Giants. Bumgarner and Kershaw. Strike. Johnny Cueto tomorrow night. Matt Moore, the final game of the 3-game series. Rich Hill will be on the mound tomorrow night. Kenta Maeda will be there Wednesday, and he's standing directly in front of Rich Hill. 1-1. 1-2. Bumgarner, the big old country boy out of Hudson Granite Falls, North Carolina. He was born in Hickory, North Carolina. That was the closest hospital. High fly ball. A trio of Giants make it a quartet, and it will be the center fielder Hernandez. So down they go in order. That's 3, 6, 9, 10 in a row. 1-0 Giants. 13, the Dodgers found themselves behind 6-3 in Arizona. Eventually, they came to tie on a home run by Hanley Ramirez. And then in the 8th inning, A.J. Ellis hit a home run against Cole Meller, and the Dodgers went on to win the game as Kenley Jansen retired the side in order. But that was only part of the story. The Dodgers, in order to celebrate the division win, all headed for the swimming pool. Yes, the swimming pool in right center. Arizona didn't like it at all, including Senator John McCain. Let's go back to this one. Kershaw ready to go back to work. 0-1. Clayton has made 76 pitches. Bumgarner so far has made 71. That's going to go foul. Oh, 2 the count. Nunez is the man. He had the infield single going head first into first. Stole second going head first. Overthrow, he went to third head first and scored on a wild pitch. And that gets between the legs of Yasmani Grandal. 1-2 the count. That only run scored way back in the 3rd inning. Curveball, he reaches for it, hits a flare, and is sliding side to no avail. Nice effort by Adrian, and the count stays 1-2. The Gold Glove is still shining brightly over there at first base for the Dodgers. 1-2 to Nunez. Pull foul. Wow. Without the protective railing, that could have wiped out half the team. Still 1-2. I've looked at a lot of dugouts over the years. Here's 1-2. Foul ball, out of play. Now the dugouts are so long, spacious, but yet the view always means you have to stand up. Off speed, Nunez couldn't wait. 6 strikeouts for Kershaw and 3 in a row. He got Bumgarner and Tomlinson to end the 5th, and then the 6th. I was thinking about dugouts. One time in Brooklyn, there was a big argument against the umpires, of course. Frankie Frisch was the manager, and a lot of stuff came out of the dugout. Towels, equipment, and all of a sudden a book, a solid covered book, not even a paperback. And you know, you can expect a lot of things to come out of a dugout, but not a book. Frankie Frisch was reading the book while sitting in the dugout, and when he was angry, he just fired it out onto the field. You know what the title of the book was? Because I was so curious, I had to go down and find out. The title of the book was Quiet Street. So you never know what will come out of a big league dugout. 1 ball and 1 strike. 2-1. Yeah, Justin Turner's bobblehead is still in there. There are quite a few slowly collecting. You won't see a bobblehead thrown out, I don't believe. 2-1. chased a bad ball. I think that was ball 3. 2-2 the count to Angel Pagan. Twice he has grounded to short. Getting up to 90 pitches now for Clayton. Got him on the outside corner. That's 7 strikeouts for Clayton and 4 in a row. And oh, look at Pagan. He is lecturing the umpire. And he is still arguing. And Bruce Bochy starts to come out, and Pagan has had his say. So with 2 downs here in the 6th inning, 7 strikeouts for Kershaw, 7 strikeouts for Bumgarner, and here's Buster lined out to left and had an infield single up the middle. Off speed curveball hit the right, coming up Puig. One, 2, 3 in the 6th. Well, that's 3, 6, 7 in a row retired by Kershaw, but it's still 1-0 Giants. Bottom of the 6th inning, you check the pitchers and you can see, among other things, Kershaw with maximum effort has made 88 pitches, and that has taken its toll because he will not come up to hit in the bottom of the 6th inning. Rob Segedin will bat for Clayton Kershaw, so the pitch count finally got him as he talks to pitching coach Rick Honeycutt. So Segedin followed by Kendrick and then Hernandez. In the Dodger bullpen, Pedro Baez warming up. Rob hitting .237, does have a home run against Bumgarner, and hits him, and the Dodgers immediately have the tying run aboard. That is the second hit batter. Remember, he nailed Grandal back in the 2nd inning.
The fielder, number 47.
Well, Clayton does what he always does. He just picks up the entire ball club and raises it a quality notch. Outpitched only because of the infield single, the stolen base, the throwing error, and then his own wild pitch. So Segedin at first. Kendrick has grounded out and flied to right. There's Pedro Baez getting ready. Roberts now has the tying run aboard. He's had one opportunity That's with 2 out in the second inning. Puig doubled. That's in there. 0-2 the count. That full extension of the arm by Bumgarner, and then whatever he does with his hand really makes what looks like an easy delivery put a little extra action on the ball itself. They just sailed that in there. 1-2. And again, he doesn't look like he has made so many pitches. See how he slings that arm around? In some respects, if you look at that, you might think that he's violating pitching rules, that he's pitching with his arm, and the key is legs and back. 1-2. And that's going to be a slicing fly ball, room service, and comes to Hunter Pence. Well, a final score, and there's a lot of things that are going to still be up in the air day after day until the season ends. For instance, the Cardinals just beat the Rockies 5-3. So up to the minute, the National League wild card standing, the Mets would be in first place, but the Giants would be just a half a game behind. In fact, if the Giants win, they will have tied the Mets, and the Cardinals won back. Off speed. Kike really struggling. He had his moments, but now the off speed pitches, the slider in the dirt, and he has struck out twice. I don't know if Kike has seen a fastball. Corey Seager on deck. 0-1. Off speed, pulled down the line, hooking in the corner, and goes foul. So one off-speed pitch and another. Kike trying to wait and just did pull it foul. Up there. That's the kind of a pitch you think you're going to hit out, and he just turned on it a little too much. 0-2. Bumgarner, 78 pitches, 1 out with a man aboard. Hendrick and Seager behind him. Off speed, little breaking ball. Well, he averages 10 strikeouts every 9 innings. Right now he has 7. He has struck out Hernandez twice and Seager twice. High fastball, and he went after it. So for young Kike Hernandez, who had a couple of home runs, who was hitting .579, and he went after a pitch way out of the strike zone. Kike now has struck out all 3 at bats. 8 strikeouts for Bumgarner, and now Madison working on Seager. Corey has struck out twice, hitting .312. Slow curveball, pull foul. The first 14 hitters for the Dodgers starting the game. He had an 0-2 count to 7 of the 14. Boy, he gets you 0-2 and you're really in trouble. In on the hands. They're checking to see about a swing. How about that? Fastball up. And the Giants are not worrying about Seager hitting the dirt. Posey's first thought was, did he swing and going down? And that was definitely a message. 1-1 to count. The message, of course, meaning I own home plate. Bumgarner kind of, I guess it started with Puig, where he has become kind of a villain. But of course, when you talk about giant villains down through the years, Sal Maglie back in New York, was absolutely considered the worst human being on the face of the earth by Brooklyn fans until he became a Dodger. 3-1. Bumgarner has hit 2, but he has not walked anybody yet. 3-1 to Corey Seager. One nothing Giants. Bottom of the 6th. Fastball foul back, 3-2. Nice article in the Sunday paper about Kyle Seager and a fairy tale thought of having Corey play short and Kyle play third, but that's about $1 trillion to 1 to come to pass. 3-2. Runner goes. Breaking ball foul back. 3-2.
Hold on. I can't hear you, Dodger fans. Make some noise!
3-2. 2 out. 1-0 Giants. Bottom of the 6th. Each game in the series means 2 games. If the Dodgers win, they lead by 6. If the Giants win, they trail by 4. Runner goes and off the plate to strike him out again. How do you like that? The numbers 2 and 3 hitters in the Dodger lineup are 0 for 6, all on strikeout. It's okay for you, son. Wave that little hand all you want. It's 1-0 Giants. Been really one of the big mysteries as to what happened with the Giants. I mean, in the All-Star break, they were the best team in the majors. Since then, they've been the last. And there they were doing well on a day that Kershaw lost, trying to win their 50th game. And it has been complete about face. The Giants have only won 30 games since. Meanwhile, the Dodgers won 43 and hence a 5-game lead. For Bochy, however, among other things, he has his big man going tonight. Bumgarner has been 0-2 to 10 of the 21 batters. And the 10 who fell behind to Madison are 0 for 10. And as we said, how about the numbers 2 and 3 hitters in the Dodger lineup? Hernandez 0 for 3, Seager 0 for 3, a total of 6 strikeouts between them. All right, Pedro Baez working against Hunter Pence. Fastball lifted down the right field line. Gonzalez going down, Puig coming over. Puig into the stand. Wow. He's okay, but we don't see the ball, but an all-out effort. Yasiel went over there like he had never played here before. He was so eyes riveted on the ball. It was as if he thought he had plenty of room. He took one quick look, hit it, lunged, missed, and then took a header. Wow. But he's all right. Boy, how can you go through that and not be hurt? I asked him. 0-1 defense, fouled out and hit into a double play. 1-1. So now the game is in the hands of the Dodger bullpen. Remember that game yesterday? 10 pitchers. But the key to the Dodger success, the depth in the bullpen. Comebacker. One away. So Hunter Pence goes 0 for 3. Gorkis Hernandez coming up. In the Dodger bullpen, as Baez is working, the left-hander Grant Dayton begins to throw. Still 1-0 in favor of the Giants. The only run came back in the 3rd inning. Kershaw has gone after a tremendous effort, and Bumgarner's still in there with 9 strikeouts. Fastball 0-1. Fastball at 97. One and one. Baez has been doing very well, and apparently Yasiel's okay, although he sure had to hit something when he disappeared. And looking at him, might have been his head. 1 ball, 1 strike. A little low. By the way, sore head or not, Puig will bat 3rd when the Dodgers hit in the bottom of the 7th against Bumgarner. Madison looks like he hasn't even warmed up yet. 2-1. Three and 1. Baez has limited opponents to a .200 batting average, and he's been effective both against right-handers. They're hitting just .221 against him. Left-handers hitting just .161. Waiting on deck, the left-hand hitting Brandon Crawford. 3-1 to Gorkis Hernandez. Fastball shot up the middle, but that's where Utley was hanging out. 2 down. So with 2 down, Brandon Crawford coming up. Roberts, I think, had Dayton ready to pitch to Crawford. And now here he comes. And he's already called his man in. So Baez came in, got Pence and Hernandez. And now Crawford will be facing the left-hander, Grant Dayton. Roberts continues to shuffle the cards and be the dealer, and we'll be right back.
23rd through Sunday, September 25th. Highlights include Friday's pregame ceremony featuring special guests and Saturday's limited edition commemorative coin giveaway. For tickets, visit Dodgers.com/LA-loves-Vin.
Grant Dayton coming out of the bullpen. It's been typical of the way Dave Roberts has been running things. And of course, if you have the talent this time of year, remember, when you can have more than 25 players on the team, you can load up. But of course, bodies are not the answer. They have to be talented. Yeah, the Giants can load up too, but they've not been able to do the proper job at all. So that's been the big contrast. The Dodger bullpen has been so successful, and the Giant pen has not. Still, we got quite a ball game here. 1-0 Giants, and Brandon Crawford hitting a couple of points higher against left-handers. Single to left and struck out against Kershaw. Big breaking ball for a strike. 0-1. Dayton has not allowed an earned run in his last 12 games. That's about 11 in the third inning. 1 ball and 1 strike. Crawford certainly an established star. Began the year signing a contract for about $75 million. And he is just that. Fastball. 1-2. One run, 3 hits for the Giants, no runs, 1 hit for the Dodgers. Yasiel Puig doubled to the base of the center field fence in the 2nd inning. Bad ball, tapped at third. Turner makes the throw. So Crawford chases. He goes out, and so do the Giants. And at the end of 6½, it's still 1-0 Giants. Dodger Baseball on Sportsnet LA is brought to you by Nissan. Choose Nissan today for great offers on our most exciting lineup ever. Shop online at choosenissan.com. A glimpse at the past. Jim Gilliam, Carl Ferrillo, number 6, Don Zimmer, 23, Coach Jake Pittler coming up the steps, 31, and Roy Campanella sitting on the dugout bench. Meanwhile, Turner, Gonzalez, and Puig, bottom of the 7th inning, and that's a very interesting inning for Madison Bumgarner. That ball's going to go foul, so we have a chance to tell you. Bumgarner's ERA by inning, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. Earned run average of a little more than 2. And then in the 7th inning, his earned run average is 5.7. To increase the defense, Joe Panik is now at second base. And here's Turner, 0-1, 0-2. So Kelby Tomlinson took over hoping to get a little offense. He couldn't do it. Kelby fouled out and struck out. So Joe Panik, who is still in a big slump, but a better defensive player, taking over. So Tomlinson sits the rest of the dance out. 0-2 the count to Turner. Oh, and 2, that's been the theme song for Madison Bumgarner. Gets out in front and has struck out 9. That's going to go foul. Madison Bumgarner has 4 complete games. Jeff Samardzija has 1. There's Samardzija. The hair down to his shoulders. Member of the Three Musketeers. 0-2 the count to Turner. Bumgarner's made 90 pitches. His pitch count high for the year, 117. And of course, for Boshi, he has to be praying that Bumgarner can get the outs before having to go to the bullpen. There they are, and it's been a tough road for each and every one of them. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Didn't bite. Breaking ball got the zone anyway. So that is strikeout number 10, and that is Bumgarner's average. Just kind of sneaks that ball in at the knees. Bumgarner always seems, and it's true statistically, that he starts off the game with a strikeout. He had 2 in the first inning tonight. That's par for the course with him. So here's Gonzalez, fly to center, fly to right, and popped it foul, out of play. He had 1 bullet down the line that went foul, and his fly ball was caught by Hernandez 1 foot from the track in right center. 0-1. Pretty good fastball outside part of the plate. Little roller. Here comes Panik from shallow right field and makes the play. So Bumgarner has hit 2 and allowed 1 hit.
Number 66, Yasiel Puig.
In fact, the only men the Dodgers have gotten on base, Puig doubled in the 2nd inning. After that, the Dodgers have had 2 men got on base, each one hit by a pitch. Grandal with 2 out in the 2nd, Seguin to begin the 6th. So here's Puig, doubled and struck out. 0-1. That was a pitch I think Yasiel Field he let get away. Little chopper. Bumgarner picks it up, can't make a tag, throws to Belt, who makes a great catch. I mean, Bumgarner fired that, and there was just a few feet. And now what? In the middle of the fight is George Lombard, the coach, not Puig. Puig is way off to the left. There's Lombard without the cap. We'd have to take another look at that. It looked like a routine hard throw, but Bumgarner furious. No, they're still angry at Puig. I don't know if anything was said. That's Kenley Jansen with his arm around Puig's shoulder. Unfortunately, we don't have a soundtrack. Little chopper picked up by Bumgarner. He had to fire the ball at Belt. That's Dave Righetti trying to calm his pitcher down. It's a good thing that's the third out, so they can all go and sit down. Well, we'd have to just look at that play again to see what happened, if anything. Jose De Leon talking. There's the chopper. Bumgarner's going to pick it up, throw to first, holler something. Again, he's having a conversation with Puig, and in the middle of it is Lombard, the coach. What, says Puig? What you do to me? What will you do to me, he's hollering. It's the Giants and the Dodgers, and we'll be right back. And we're wondering why. And on this play at first base, the fellas down in the field tell me that Bumgarner kept saying, hollering, I guess, at Puig, "Don't look at me. Don't look at me. Don't look at me. Don't look at me." That's what it looks like he's saying. And the next thing you know, Puig is saying something to the effect, "What are you going to do to me? What you do to me? What you do to me?" So one saying, "What you do to me," and the other saying, "Don't look at me."
First baseman number 9, Brandon Belt.
Okay, we are going to the 8th inning in the latest drama of the Giants and the Dodgers. Brandon Belt, Madison Bumgarner, due up, and then Joe Panik. However, yeah, Mac Williamson is coming out on deck. He will bat for Bumgarner, who has made 97 pitches. And of course, that means the game will be in the hand of the Giant bullpen. Little fly ball, tough play. Kike's calling, however, and catches up to it. So one away here in the 8th inning. So Mac Williamson coming up. He will pinch hit for Bumgarner. Hitting .229.
Mac Williamson.
Will Smith, a left-hander, warming up in the Giant bullpen. That seemed like a strange combination. We'll have to triple check to make sure. Don't look at me. Don't look at me. What you gonna do to me? 1-0 Giants, 8th inning. Laid on a fastball, 0-1. No swing. Williamson followed by Panic, who's batting 9th in Tomlinson's spot. 1 ball and 1 strike to Mac. Fastball. One run, 3 hits for the Giants. No runs, 1 hit for the Dodgers. We're in the 8th. Williamson from Jacksonville, Florida, lives in North Carolina now at Wake Forest. He was originally drafted by the Giants, 3rd round 4 years ago. He was a high velocity pitcher at Wake Forest High School. They thought he was the #1 pitching prospect in North Carolina. Fouled away. However, with that arm and the ability to hit the ball, he became an outfielder. In the Dodger bullpen, Joe Blanton begins to warm up. They would have hit for Dayton in the bottom of the 8th. One ball and 2 strikes. Off speed and he missed. Change up and he just missed. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Stayed outside. Grandal tried to frame it, which means fool the umpire, but it didn't work. Fastball. So the change up, the fastball, and down he goes. 8 Giants have struck out. Coming up tomorrow and then on Wednesday, you have Johnny Cueto and Rich Hill tomorrow night, and the left-hander Matt Moore and Kenta Maeda on Wednesday. Then Colorado. There's Johnny and all of his different deliveries. If you have never seen him pitch, you should be out here to watch him. And Maeda is ready himself. Panic tries to wait on a breaking ball. He's late, pops it up, and Seager puts it away. So a nice inning for Grant Dayton after Baez got an out. And we're going to the bottom of the 8th, 1-0 Giants. That high school senior athlete, then nominate him for a chance to be named a Time Warner Cable Sports Championship Drive Scholar Athlete and receive a $2,500 college scholarship. So go to twcschamp.com now for more information. Well, we turn the page. Will Smith out of Noonan, Georgia. He was originally a 7th-round pick by the Angels. 6'5", 240. 27 years old. I can't tell whether he's wearing it or not. But a lot of times with Will Smith, he wears a little neck piece carrying a ring. The ring belonged to his late grandfather. Well, we can see part of the chain, but nothing else. That's a strike. Grandal hit by a pitch and struck out. Grandal, Utley, and then we'll see whether the Dayton will stay in. 0-2. Yeah, it's a nice touch if we could only see the ring, but I guess we never will. It's tucked underneath the t-shirt. Oh, and 2 in the dirt. One ball and 2 strikes. Bad ball looked like. Grandal chased it. Strikes out a second time. That is strikeout number 1 for Will Smith. 11 Dodgers have bitten the dust. So for Madison Bumgarner, another tremendous performance. Not a complete game, but he did give them 7. No runs, 1 hit, a double by Yasiel Puig. He hit 2 and struck out 10. So 1 away on the strikeout, and here's Utley, who was struck out, flied out. Carlos Ruiz is out on deck. And that's a strike, 0-1. So Ruiz would bat for Dayton, and Blanton throwing in the bullpen. One nothing Giants. The run came in the 3rd inning. Bad ball. That's a case, I'm sure, where Utley convinced himself it was going to be a fastball, so he started his swing a little early, and then the pitch wound up way outside of the strike zone. 0-2. That's off the plate. Meanwhile, Yasiel Puig, usually involved in a game that involves Madison Bumgarner, talking to young Jose De Leon. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Smith basically fastball, slider, changeup, and a little foul ball out of play. Will came to the Giants the 1st of August. He had been with the Brewers, and he was sent to the Giants for the young catcher Andrew Susac and a right-hand pitcher named Phil Bickford. But his best pitch, so they say, is his slider. 1-2. On the hands, little ground ball to Panic. 2 down. So Rich Hill and Johnny Cueto tomorrow. Matt Moore Wednesday. Kenta Maeda for the Dodgers. And I'll tell you what, those pitchers have a very tough act to follow. Kershaw was brilliant. 6 innings, allowed 1 run, 7 strikeouts. Bumgarner 7 innings, 1 hit, 10 strikeouts. Cueto back on the bench. Hill is upstanding. They'll both be out there on the mound tomorrow. So here's Ruiz batting for Dayton. Ball 1. When the Giants come up in the 9th inning, they'll have Nunez, Pagan, and Posey. Breaking ball in there. Now, that's going to be a good story to read about in the papers tomorrow if we've got it correct. And of course, we are a long way from the scene. But if we have it correct, Bumgarner was saying, "Don't look at me." And Puig was saying, "What will you do to me?" We'll see if that's correct. Young De Leon listening to Puig. Fastball hit foul off to the plate and well out of play. In the Dodger bullpen, Joe Blanton is now joined by Kenley Jansen. One ball and 2 strikes. Carlos Ruiz. Hard ground ball, base hit into left field. Over to get it is Pagan, and Ruiz will hold with a single. So that's the only other hit the Dodgers have besides Puig's double. And now here comes Bruce Bochy with Kendrick due up. Micah Johnson is now going to run at first base. So Ruiz singles and Johnson will run for him. All right, it's no news in San Francisco. The Giants make a pitching change in the bottom of the 8th. We'll be back. Dodger Baseball on Sportsnet LA is brought to you by BMW. See a Southern California BMW Center today for exceptional offers. And by Carl's Jr., introducing the Bacon 3-Way Burger only at Carl's Jr. Well, we have 43,435 looking on to what has turned into another rough, hard-riding Giant Dodger game. Derek Law has now come in from the bullpen. So Bumgarner went 7. Will Smith got 2 outs, then gave up the hit to Ruiz. And Micah Johnson is running for Ruiz. And Johnson was brought up to the Dodgers to do one thing, run. And he can run. And the first pitch instead, Kendrick backs out. Micah Johnson in the minor leagues at Charlotte last year stole 28. This year at Oklahoma City stole 26. He's an even 6, 190 out of Indianapolis, Indiana. He was originally drafted by the White Sox out of the University of Indiana. And that's ball 1. Kendrick grounded out, flied to right twice. 0 for 3. All of those at-bats, however, were against Madison Bumgarner. Now he's facing Derek Law, who's out of Pittsburgh. And ball 2. Law pitching, I think, with one eye on Johnson. Derek Law from Pittsburgh, and if you've been around a long time, you would think of Vernon Law, who was a wonderful pitcher for the Pittsburgh Pirates, but he's no relation. But that's a great name in Pittsburgh. All right, Micah Johnson, tying run, 2 out, 2-0 the count to Kendrick. And ball 3. I tell you what, that's got to be a terrible feeling of what's been happening to the Giants, and for Dave Righetti, the pitching coach. Waiting on deck is Kike Hernandez. Oh, they let him swing 3-0. All right, 3-1. Well, another thought you have, of course, 3-1 with Reddick waiting in the bullpen or in the dugout. Jansen in the pen. We'll watch Johnson, and so will Law. We'll see if they play run and hit now, 3-1, which of course simply means that Howie doesn't have to swing at a pitch for ball 4. Boshi sending a sign out to Posey. 3-1. Johnson not going on a fly ball to right. Very playable. Another punch is there and puts it away for the 3rd out. So the Dodgers come up empty again. No runs, 1 hit, a man left at the end of 8. 1-0 San Francisco. The pennant with MLB.TV Premium, the #1 app for live baseball. Blackout and other restrictions do apply. So visit MLB.TV for more details. Well, with the Dodgers trailing 1-0, they bring in Joe Blanton as the Dodgers tied or gotten ahead, they would have brought in Kenley Jansen. So it's been Kershaw for 6, then Baez, Dayton, and Blanton. And again, Dave Roberts wheeling and dealing, and Nunez, Pagan, and Posey will be coming up. Nunez scored the only run. He had an infield single, stole second, went to third on the overthrow by Grandal, and came home on a wild pitch. And that's it. 1-0 Giants, 9th inning. Ball 1. Nunez 1 for 3, Pagan 0 for 3, Posey 1 for 3. Slider 1-1. Foul back. It will be interesting indeed who pitches the 9th inning for San Francisco. They've already said that Santiago Casilla is no longer the closer. He's blown 9 games this year. Hunter Strickland and Derek Law are going to get chances, and Law finished the 8th. Meanwhile, Nunez chases and strikes out a second time.
The fielder, number 16, Angel Pagan.
So 9 Giants have struck out tonight. 11 Dodgers have gone down. Here's Pagan, twice grounded to short, struck out, went nose to nose with plate umpire Jim Reynolds, but stayed in the game. That's Howard Strickland kind of walking around waiting for orders. Hard throwing right-hander, and left-hander Javier Lopez gets up. That's hit to the gap. A diving catch. Yes. Kike Hernandez makes a big play in shallow right center on that fly ball hit by Pagan. So 2 out, top of the 9th inning. And here's Buster Posey. Good play by Kike, who is due to lead off in the 9th inning, but that would be doubtful. Buster Posey certainly has a problem, at least a problem for him. Buster has not hit a home run since the 17th of July, has just one. 3 months. Posey, 12 home runs. Foul back. In fact, check me, he has 6 home runs. Oh, and 1 to count. Hunter Pence hitting back of him. 2 out, top of the 9th inning, 1-0 Giants. Foul back. Buster, you have to remember, hit as many as 24 home runs a couple of years ago. Three years ago, he signed a 9-year deal with the Giants and a no-trade deal. He's going to be around a long time. And if he slows down as a catcher, they have a chance to play him at first base. Chopper to third, backing up to the hop is Turner, drops it, recovers, throws, and gets him anyway. All right, the Giants go down in order. All eyes will be on the bullpen. Will it be Hunter Strickland? And we'll be back to find out. number remains 9, and the Giants are 5 back of the Dodgers. If Bosey holds up with the bullpen tonight, and that's always against him this year, they would cut the magic number. It would remain 9, but the Dodgers would then be leading by 4. And look at the Giants. 2 years they had only 7 losses when leading after the 8th, and this year alone they've lost 8, which is a huge reason why they're 5 back of the Dodgers. Andrew Toles will bat for Blandon, hitting .353 as a pinch hitter, 6 for 17. Strickland is big, 6'4", 220, and throws very hard, but it's Derek Law on the mound, and Strickland is behind him. 1 ball and no strike. Well, Bumgarner, a very interested observer now. A high breaking ball, 2-0. Law gave up the base hit to Ruiz with 2 out and got Kendrick. Well, if he staggers at all, Strickland will be brought in. Fastball pulled foul. 2-1 to Andrew. He has made all kinds of contributions. Kershaw sweating it out. Tough to lose a 1-0 game. And of course, Bumgarner has a chance to be 14-9. Two and 1. 43,435 here on a Monday night. Fastball, a hopper into right field. Here we go again. So Toles continues making contributions one game after another. Javier Lopez will be brought in to face Corey Seager, and then they'll keep Strickland back, I assume, for Turner. But there's a speedster in Toles, and we'll be right back. Veteran left-hander who at one time was an outstanding reliever. Time has caught up to him a bit. Back in April, Corey Seager faced him and hit a home run against him here at Dodger Stadium. So we will see about this time. Toles at first. Seager, Turner, and Gonzalez trying to move him around. Lopez against left-handers did not give up a home run last year, and has given up 2 this year. Last year, left-handers hit about 112. Left-handers this year hitting 205. Though he's still a very, very talented veteran reliever. Javier Lopez keeping an eye on Toles. Has to sneak it in there and gets it. 0-2 the count to Corey Seager. Jock Peterson, the rest of the club watching. and 2. There goes the runner, and the pitch fouled away. Andrew Toles, who has good speed, is 1 for 1 in stolen bases. He doesn't really know the moves of most of the pitchers, and he's trying to be a quick study on Javi Lopez. Off the plate. Lopez doesn't figure to stay in with Turner on deck, but then you get to another left-hander, and that would be Adrian Gonzalez. One ball and 2 strikes. And there's his move over to first. Javi is from San Juan, Puerto Rico, originally signed by the Diamondbacks back in 1998. Sneaks it in, and that's fouled away. Kept that in on the hands. Seager grinning about that pitch as Cueto making mental notes. There they are from right to left. Bumgarner, Cueto, and Samardzija. 1-2. Javi's 39, but he's been around a long time. Signed by the Diamondbacks. Spent 2 years with them, and then he spent 6 years, make it 5 with the Red Sox, 1 with the Pirates, and he's been with the Giants since 2010. 1-2 to Corey Seager. All eyes on Toles. He's not going, but he draws a throw. One and 2. Just missed the outside corner. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Bottom of the 9th, 1-0 in favor of the Giants. San Francisco, a flickering flame in the windstorm, and the Dodgers trying to snuff it out. 2-2. And fouled away down the line. 43,435 came out, and they have seen push against shove. The only run in the 3rd inning. Nunez, an infield single, stole second, took third on the overthrow, and then Clayton Kershaw's wild pitch brought in the run. So there's Nunez, and Lopez trying to keep that 1-run lead back into the clubhouse. 2-2. Little ground ball, backhanded, no, gets by Panic into right field, and the Giants now are in trouble. The Dodgers first and third, and nobody out. For Bruce Bochy, nightmare revisited. Joe Panic couldn't come any closer to getting the ground ball. Right there, an inch. No more. So now with a right-hander coming up, Hunter Strickland will be brought in. I mean, that could have been an easy double play, or instead a base hit. And so what a spot for Strickland. First and third, nobody out. Bottom of the ninth, and the Giants trying to hold on to a 1-0 lead. We will be back indeed. Numbers for the Giant bullpen. 28 blown saves this year. 7 in the last 11 opportunities this month. For Lopez, a ground ball, inches might have been a double play, instead a base hit. So Strickland now just trying to limit the damage to 1 run and hope the Giants can come back in extra innings. And the Dodgers in attack mode right now with Justin Turner. Strickland throws very hard. Andrew Tolles at third. Corey Seager at first. Strickland 6'4", 220. He throws in the high 90s. Time. Jim Reynolds, the plate umpire. Strickland originally signed out of high school by the Boston Red Sox. Fastball at 100. He does throw very hard. Boy, that's saying hello in a hurry, isn't it? The first pitch, 100 miles an hour. Strickland's earned run average is 3.2. He has a record of 3-3. He has only 3 saves. And that's going to be popped in the air. Foul. Looks like it's going into play and go. Brandon Belt over to take a look. Santiago Casilla had been the #1 closer. He had 31 saves, but he just wasn't doing the job. Meanwhile, Kenley Jansen going over possible hitters if this game goes into extra innings. Pence, Hernandez, and Crawford if there is a 10th inning. All right, 0-2 to Justin. Nice save behind the plate by Posey. I was just ready to look it up. Strickland has 3 wild pitches. Anytime there's a runner at third, we always look it up. We tried to do it, but we were late on Clayton's wild pitch in the third inning. Posey checking again. Clayton might lose or get off the hook. 1-2. And a ground ball base hit. Cole scores to tie it up, and the Giants are driven to their knees again by the bullpen. Three straight hits, and the Dodgers now will battle all night to get one. Now need one to win it. Another fastball, and Turner just went the other way with it. This really has to be a nightmare for Bochy. When you think, and of course, Madison Bumgarner went 7, struck out 10, allowed 1 hit, and he loses a win. Andrew Cole started it with that pinch hit single, and Turner, hitting close to 300 against right-handers, bangs in the tying run. Now let's see. Seager is the winning run, Turner at first, and here's Adrian. Hitting back of Gonzalez is Yasiel Puig. Maybe with a right-hander pitching. Fastball missed. Adrian fly to center, fly to right, grounded out. And ball 2. You know, Strickland recorded the save in the longest by time and tied for longest in inning in the playoff game, second game back in 2014 in the division series when the Giants defeated Washington 2-1 in 18 innings. Two 2-0. Well, he's still throwing hard from 100. That last one, 99. 1-1. Bottom of the ninth. Nobody out. Runners at first and second. So Kershaw might have lost. His team has gotten him off the hook. And now they're trying to get a win for Joe Blanton. And it was started by Andrew Cole. Cole has just been amazing. Off speed, a drive into deep right, back goes Pence to the track. Leaps up, can't make the play. The runners had held up. Here comes Corey Seager, who will score. Gonzalez doubles off the glove of Hunter Pence, and Corey Seager had to hold up until the ball went off his glove, and then Seager able to beat the relay to the plate. So the Dodgers have reduced the magic number to 7, and for the Giants, again hit by disaster in the 9th inning. Unbelievable. The play of the game had to be that clutch double by Adrian Gonzalez that gave Blanton the win. And of course the Dodgers increased their lead over San Francisco. They now lead by 6. tense going back. The runners had to hold. Hunter couldn't make the catch. Here he goes reaching up. It hit his glove. In fact, he looked in his glove. He thought the ball was in there. That confused Seager for the moment, and then Corey was able to beat the relay to the plate. So a shocked Giant ball club goes back to the clubhouse. A thoroughly delighted Dodger club celebrates, and they lead the Giants by 6. Talk to you tomorrow. Till then, we wish you all a very pleasant good evening, everybody.